all. Back again for Workspaces, something I'm actually quite excited about. I've been using Workspaces for a while, purely from the other side of things, actually using them, but never really got to the end of the skin of how they're put together. So, Ben, I'm going to be one of your fanboys if nobody else is going to be today. So today's going to be an exciting session, I think. So, got some returning guests. Thank you all for returning, and we've also got some new names as well. So the way we'll start this off, if you've got questions, please put them into the chat group. What's up? I will try to answer the questions as we go along. If there's anything I can't answer, I will hold on to the questions and I will sort of pass them over to Ben at an opportune moment. So that's about all, really. So enjoy. Ben, take it away.
Okay. So today we're looking at workspaces. Like before, we're going to rattle through the evolution of them, and there's some new things that, well, one particular new thing we found out really in the last 6 or 7 days, which I will share with you so we can get that sorted. And then we'll have a look at workspaces in practice and questions and roundup. So really, like Harper said, if you've have any questions, please feel free to just drop them in the chat, and that's totally fine. I'm going to skip through this because a lot of you have seen that before. Actually, suffice to say, thank you to those guys who have completed in the Rave and Intel reviews, because we are now the most rated consultancy after Unit 4. So that's quite a good achievement for us. Workspaces. Bit about me first. So, oh, have I got? Of course, I've got that there, and you can see that. I'm very sorry. That's a bit. You can tell I don't really drive. Don't drive Zoom very much. So I've been doing this a little while. Play guitar. Got two border terriers now, some of which I can see Claire's on here. I've met Darcy, pictured there, and then this is the latest arrival, Dennis, who does spend most of his time jumping. So here, the evolution of how we got to where we are with workspaces and why we're quite excited about them. So way back in the desktop, we were all using browser inquiries. We're familiar with the concept here. There's 3 tabs: Setup tab, Search tab, and a Results tab. Relatively easy to use, quite a powerful tool, and we can produce graphs and all sorts of things off of that. When the Web Analyze tool was, there has always been a desktop analyzer, a tool which enables you to create sort of pivot tables and hierarchies and various sorts of charts. But this kind of view obviously now looks a little dated, and it's been superseded by other things. So as there's been this general move towards the web, the inquiry tools are going into the web, and these are an example of a web-based inquiry. All of this sort of stuff tended to be built in the desktop and then published out to the web, or was a sort of standard report. And there was graphing opportunities as well, so that was all fairly fine. Then there was the evolution into information pages. Information pages grouping web browsers together and delivering them in a page. So you could have a project manager's information page, an HR information page, a cost center leader information page, and so on. And we could express those. And this is Unit 4's first attempt at something approaching a dashboard, in that we've got dials on here, and there's a chart, and we got some reports and stuff. So the term information page and dashboard tended to be sort of interlinked between those things, and that's really what they were talking about. So what that's evolved to now is this thing called Information Browser, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. But this is where there is this new thing. This new thing is called analysis. This is not analyze, it's something new called analysis, which I believe I'm right in saying was made available in the latest patch. Now, I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. There is still analyze in the web, but now there's an additional thing called analysis. So if we crack on here, this is information browser like we did, and we can create browser reports, we can add selection criteria, we can do grouping, we can add expressions and all that other good stuff. Analysis is like a charting tool that enables you to do a lot of the functionality of analyze, but it actually creates the output as a widget, which can then be used in the information browser. So this is what this is all about. So we're using this to create the charts and the output, which will then be used in the workspace. So that's what we're doing here. So that's a new thing, analysis. Got the web analyzer, and we talked about the web analyzer. This is a really great tool for slicing and dicing down through your data, doing filtering and all sorts of stuff, and preparing cross tabs and different sorts of charts and publishing them and saving them and doing all of those things. Also, sort of off the page here, you can't see it, is the filter, another sort of filtering option, which enables you to really do good what-if type sort of views of your data. And this tool, I think, is one of the best things that Unit 4 have done in recent history. If we then move on, this is the analyzer tool. We've now got workspaces, and workspaces for me bring all of this history together. So a workspace is a completely different way of accessing the system. So here I've logged in and I've set up this workspace as my start page. So those of you who were with us a couple of weeks ago when we talked about workspaces, then we talked about start pages and that kind of stuff. We showed you how to create things as a start page. This is a workspace as a start page. The beauty of this is this would be maybe an accounts payable person's workspace, and they have everything that they need in this one page, and that's what I'm going to show you. It's also a much more graphical view of life, and it looks a little bit more modern. And so that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to actually look at this demonstration now. So I'm actually going to go in and log in to Unit 4, to our training environment, and we'll sort of join where we sort of left off with that PowerPoint. So this is logged in as a system, and really sorry, just made. Would be helpful if I logged into the right browser. This is what I did earlier, true Blue Peter fashion. So here I am logged in, and this is that accounts payable clerk sort of workspace that we saw previously. So here, the way this works, instead of the menus being expressed in the old-fashioned way, I mean, this dates back to the desktop view here. And here the idea is, in this one page, I can have toggle between these options and have a different dashboard for each button that I press. But also you'll notice that I can also access various things from the standard menu from within each of those things. So if I click back to here, I've got a supplier's dashboard, which has got a list of all the suppliers. I've got spend by supplier, and I can drill down into those. But also I've got access to the supplier record. And for those of you who did the dynamic form webinar the other week, this is the dynamic form. So I'm accessing the dynamic form straight from within the workspace. So if I click on this, remember it's dynamic in that that acts dynamic in the way that it changes the tabs, but also will pull the data back and all that kind of stuff. So we can access forms, we can access reports, and we can access records from this drop down, which makes everything a lot neater. If I've got a report here, I can also click on all these hyperlinked blue values, and that will open the supplier account as well. And I mentioned here, so I've got supplier spend. If I wanted to drill down into that one, that will go into the report, and we can zoom down into what the spend was, and we can see that this was a medical van that was purchased. So I've got all that information pretty much at my fingertips. When I click on the requisitions option here, what we're presented here is a KPI. So this is what Unit 4 are calling a KPI. These sort of really sort of set up, and you just plug them in, and this is just an example of one of those. These both use that analysis tool to create these are widgets and then bring them through here to be displayed on the screen. If we click through here, I can click on these options, so I can look at active requisitions. So I've got a report there of active requisitions. I can go and have a look at requisitions in workflow, and you'll see that it's all nice, much easier to use, much more intuitive. And if we go to here, purchase orders, I've got my purchase orders, so I can see the things are coming through. I got my spend by month, my spend by supplier, or whatever is required. If I hover over this, I can then drill down into the purchase orders, or if I wanted to, I could go into the requisition number here, and all the usual sort of things. If I feel that this has been updated, I can refresh that chart within the screen, which is something that's quite new and I think very useful. Go to receipts. So these are all the things I'm expecting. Clearly, our data is a little bit past it in terms of receipts, but we can have a look at what we're expecting in the next few days based on the receipt day of the purchase orders. And on the icon, come on, go back to the, so that is it. I can then actually go and enter a goods receipt if that's what I want to do. What we've got here is sort of, these are the other screens. So we just labeled this as my screen. So these are the other things I might want to do. And I might want to go and request some absence. So if I click on that, I can open the absence request screen and I can fill that in as normal. Also, there is a dashboard I forgot to show you here. So if I click back on here, this is sort of my requisitions and my absences. So I got another view here of the world. So this would be, if you imagine somebody in maybe the purchase ledger or procurement, they've got a lot of what they need to hand without having to navigate all the way through those menus. All of these buttons are completely configurable. We can make them be whatever we want them to be, and all of these sub-menus are completely configurable. So the scope here is huge for really delivering tailored experiences, much better experiences for your people. So that's all really, really good. I want to show you another form. So this is another workspace that we've created as an example. This is one for human resources. So here, same sort of concept. I've got a number of buttons that I can pick on, and then the final one is my screens, which is sort of generic stuff. But here I can have a look at headcount, and I can refresh that at the push of a button. I've got headcount KPIs, I've got new starters, I've got staff turnover KPIs. I can go here and click on the employee records, and that will open the employee the resource master file, and then I can do whatever I need to do. I'll just let that run. Oh, sorry, list of resources, and then I can open that from the hyperlink. So you can do all of that good stuff. In the organization folder here, we've got different positions. So positions by department. You know, this is test data, so we've got a lot of unattributed department positions, which of course you won't have. I can drill down into that and then drill down again, and that opens the browser underneath that, and when this refreshes we should see who's in those positions, and sorry, we should see that list of positions, position code, all in cost center 110. So that's quite a neat feature too. If I go into the organization, you can see here on the drop down, got positions, we've got the contract change form. So that's again another example of the form embedded within the workspace to make this much more usable rather than having to go to that forms folder and all that kind of stuff. If I click on absences, I've got here an absence breakdown, who's, you know, this is annual leave, maternity leave, sick leave. This is who's on sort of at the moment, I think that's the who has been there the number of days. And then down here we've got the current absences. So Laura is currently on a career break, and I've got Rosie on annual leave and somebody else on study leave. So that's all great. It's got the dates that those things are happening. Here it says calendar, so we've got this particular view of a calendar. That's how it looks by default. But if I click that button there, I've got a calendar view that I can then toggle through, and where it says one or more, I can click on that and see who's absent and for what the details are. If I was to make this calendar fill the whole screen, obviously it wouldn't show that sort of abbreviated like that. It would be able to present more data. It's just gone like that to fit it within the space that's been made available to it. But I can quickly toggle backwards and forwards. Now this could be absence within my team. So if I wanted to book holidays, I could see who was on holiday at the same time that I want to book some holiday and all that other good stuff. If I click on salary information, so I can see here that what the average salary is, what the total salaries are, and I can see what the spend is per department. I can then go from the salary link here. Oh, what's new absence? Oh, perhaps there isn't a link on that one, maybe. I thought there was. Okay, this one, another example, compliance. So these are really good widgets. So I've got my gender analysis here, and then I've got my diversity analysis here. And again, if that changes, I can just click that to refresh that, and I got my screens there. So that is Workspaces. This is real. We've created these in our training environments. We've tested them, and we think they're really great. We've got the latest patch on there. We've literally applied the patches this week to bring everything up to date. This is using the analysis tool to create these widgets, and these are really, I think, game changers in terms of the usability of Unit 4, what is now Unit 4 ERP. We will be doing a session on, we will be doing a training session on how to create workspaces, which we'll make available. That will be a formal training session, like a day, or I haven't quite decided whether it's a day or 2 days to put this whole thing together. Obviously we can provide consultancy or help with how to create these, but the most time-consuming thing is actually, once you understand what a workspace is actually the design. What buttons do you want along the top for each role or each group of users? And then what do you want to have on the dashboard? So we've just got these dashboards so they fit comfortably within a usual widescreen monitor. However, they can just carry on south like a website. So there could be more things underneath this. So it could have more data, more reports, and you just literally scroll through. You're not restricted to just what you can see here. You can have a lot more stuff in there. So the time consuming bit is really deciding, okay, I want to have an HR administrator's workspace. What do they want to see? I want to have a project manager's workspace. What do we want these things to see? There are some limitations. You can only have 6 of these headings is the main restriction that we've found so far. And there doesn't seem to be any limit on any of these subheadings that you can have. But having sort of one of them for the common stuff that everybody seems to want seems to be sensible, with a common dashboard here which has got my requisitions, my advances, my expenses, my whatever showing here would seem sensible, and that would be broadly published to everybody. So that then leaves you with 5 to play with, which should be enough for most other areas across the business. So that is really what we wanted to achieve with today. And our, like, these things are always, you know, the intention is they don't necessarily need to take a whole hour. This is all about trying to show you what's possible and to present the thing for real as much as possible, to talk about the opportunities that are available to you, and then to ask any questions. So I can see there are some questions coming through. I'm just not able to.
I'll read them out, Rich.
Okay.
So, I mean, the first thing, the thing that I do like about this, just personally, compared to information browsers, it's all sort of, it looks as though it's in memory. So in other words, you're not having to, when you're going into the workspace, it's not generating, it's there, it's already sort of created for you, which is great. So you talked about 6 tabs going across, and again, we probably haven't had much sort of to break this, but previous experience I found with things like information browsers were, once you start to load them, they just chug forever. So again, you probably don't know the answer to this, but we don't know what the limitation is on these things right now, do we?
No, we don't, and we don't know. I mean, so when flexi fields were first launched, and HR guys in HR started putting 340 flexi fields on an HR record, and then wondered why it was taking 15 minutes to load a record. So we haven't done that sort of load testing, but there is, you know, there is a reasonable amount on these that I've been demonstrating, and it is reasonably quick. It's quicker, you know, and I think as we get better at it, we'll be able to give much better advice, I think.
Yep. Okay. So a question from Wes was, how long did it take to create in general? So understanding that, you know, there's a design for this. So do we have an idea on sort of some of the workspaces we created? How long they took?
I was talking about this, talking this through with Martin. He said by far the thing that takes the longest time is the design, and so you know, what are you going to put in each of these things? So you want a dashboard for each button, and then you want like a menu for each button, and then you want to but even before then you've got to decide what's the audience, how many audiences have we got for these things, to break them down. So there's a certain amount of time, depending on your organization, to do that. But let's say you wanted to do, I don't know, 10 or 15 of these things, then there's a significant amount of work to be done to get the design right. It is best practice, I think, to get all the material done and ready first. That's certainly the approach that Martin's done here, is get the design, understand where things want to go, understand the KPIs. The KPIs are largely pre-delivered by Unit 4, and then plug them in. So he had to go back. He created them using Analyze, I think, and then actually realised his mistake, and then had to go back and recreate them in Analysis to
Analysis,
widgets. Yeah. But once you've got all that, actually it's reasonably quick. So I think if you got everything together, then in terms of just putting it together and making it work, you probably do one of these in half a day to a day, depending on, as we've done. You know, we've only got a few things in each desktop, in each dashboard. You know, if you've got a dashboard that carries on down with 15, that's going to take a little bit longer. But the sort of thing we demonstrated today, if you've built everything, you could probably put together in less than a day.
Okay, good. There's quite a few questions coming through. What I'm going to do is, rather than me reading the question, just to sort of do something a bit controversial, do people want to come off mute and ask questions? Bard, do you want to start with you?
Yes, I was just looking at this. A very, very, very good demonstration. Thank you very much. Just looking at how would you position this compared with business intelligence tools like Power BI or Tableau or ClickView and so forth. Obviously, this is integrated in Unit 4 ERP, so it's got obvious advantages. Also in terms of cost and setup and so forth. But would you say that this could kind of challenge the use of BI tools?
I think so. I think definitely, because, and to some extent, Harper, you'll need to tell me if I'm barking up the wrong tree. But we've got recent experience of talking to a customer who they were actually talking around Planner, and they were talking about spending a lot of money on some additional tools to get the reporting and everything they wanted. When we showed them what we could do with this and the sorts of reports we could get with this and the Analyze tool, they decided not to go ahead because they could save a lot of money and invest in this instead.
Yeah, totally agree. So, and again, Bart, just to sort of, I mean, it depends on where you are. So if you are looking to, if you're looking for a BI tool to sit on top of, you know, several corporate applications, then maybe that's a different proposition. But if your data is all flowing through, you know, ERP or business or Regresso, call it what you want, and you can get all the data sort of sets through there, then why would you want to do anything different?
Thank you very much.
Okay, Neil, actually, rather me, it's up to you. Do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, you can do. So my question was, so can different users have different workspaces dependent on the role they have within the organisation? So like
yes.
I thought that was
let me just see if I can just get that to go. Try to demonstrate this. Yes, they can. My screen seems to. Oh, it's this. Hold on. Yes, they can. Just got to press the right button. So yes, we can within Common there is Workspaces exists within Common, and so in here there's the procurement workspace and there's the HR workspace. So there's several ways of dishing that up. I can actually give them access to that, which is what we've done here. So I've got the procurement one as my start page, but I've still got access to that one. Or I could link the workspace to my role, and then to my position, maybe, and then through menu access, I could deliver it that way. So you can do it a lot of different ways, I think.
So, but they only see information relevant to, say, their service then?
They
link it in.
So data control still applies.
Yes.
Okay.
As long as you are using data control, of course, Neil.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, not really data control question. More about, so let's just say you've got two services. One is, I don't know, finance, and one is HR. So you'd aim the finance workspace the finance person would see all of their information for finance. They wouldn't necessarily see what's in the HR one, because somehow, presumably, you've got to link that workspace to that role that person's got.
Yeah, that would be. So what we've got here, what I'm demonstrating here, is maybe a little bit atypical, because we would expect me to have a role, and this would then satisfy the needs of that role. Okay.
Yeah.
However, in some organisations, I could have more than one role within the system. So I might have a workspace that helps me do my finance bits, but I might also have project management responsibilities. So I would have those two different things, or we'd make a third one which blends everything together. This comes back to the design discussion, really, at the top of the whole piece.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Steve's asking if they're allocated by role. If you have multiple roles, can the number of menu buttons increase beyond 6?
We haven't tried. We haven't.
Question, Steve. That's a good question, Steve.
Yeah, no, I don't think it does, because you'd have, this is a discrete workspace. Now, I think it would still be 6. You just see different. You just have multiple possible access to multiple workspaces. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Rich, you might as well come off mute, because you've got a couple of questions here rather than me reading them out.
Oh yes, right. So first of all, it looks very, very modern.
There we go.
I really like the layout and the presentation of this. It for once, Unit4 looks like a modern application. So to my questions, the first one I had was, is there any restrictions of what type of screens you can display on a panel? Is it like, do you put like any top gen screens, or like, the web screens, entry screens, like absence entries, timesheeting screens, that kind of stuff?
I don't think we've come across. I don't think we've come across any restrictions at all yet.
Yeah, because you've got forms, haven't you? Ben showed this to me earlier. We've got dynamic forms within this.
Yeah.
You've got screens, you've got browsers. So as long as it's, and again, devil in detail, but as long as it's a proper screen, I presented through the application, it should work. It should be able to presentable through Workspaces. So Ben's tested native screens, browsers, forms, dynamic forms already.
Yeah. What we haven't tested are things like whether we can bring accelerator reports back through here.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I think we can. I think you can do punch out. You can bring links to other websites and things like that into here as well.
You can do links.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So you can actually do. Okay. Well, then you probably can bring like server reports, because you can host server reports on the web. So which is accelerator and stuff. So you can probably do quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, and I presume you can sort of do links to the other experience packs, such as requisition entries, absences, and that stuff.
So here, this is the experience pack.
Oh, that's excellent.
So, and then I think timesheet is probably the experience pack. Period isn't valid, but the thing,
Yeah, that's
awesome. That's really good. That's like a one-stop shop for everyone.
Yeah. I think a lot of thought and effort's gone into this, and I think it lifts the interface into a completely different. I'm sorry, my dog. This is trouble with doing things at home. He's decided he's something out there that needs his attention. It has lifted it into like the modern world, I think. It's a completely different experience. I think users will find it much easier to use.
Because you only need to look at what you need to look at, which is great. Yeah. Wes is asking, can files in the document archive be linked through to here? Payslips as an example. So if the screens are there, and yes, I would have thought so.
Yeah, I think so. So that would be an obvious one. In fact, I will make a note of that and see if we can I'll get Martin to test that, payslips. Yeah. Stuff in the document archive. Yeah.
Yep. And Steve's asking, in a previous world where there were communities for cost centers you're in, with new feeds, etc., is Workspaces simply about ease of screen access, layout, etc., rather than the community's functionality?
There
yes,
was that, yeah.
Yeah.
You answer that. Do you want to answer that?
I said, what did happen to communities? That sort of died a death, didn't it?
I think it did die a death. It did die a death. This and it's been superseded by this.
Yeah.
You still got the sense of so within here you still got the pinned conversation. So which is neat. For starting conversations and all that kind of stuff. You still got all of the Noli and whatever else.
It's just my thought processes. This seems to be making screens easy for people and giving people the appropriate shortcuts to the areas they need to be in. Whereas the community showed all sorts of news feeds and things like, well, you showed the calendar, but it showed you could have things like a team calendar and.
Sorry, Steve. Yeah. So on this thing here, we got my screen. So we got here. This could have those sorts of things in there. So you could have a news feed in here, and you could have like a team calendar. So we've got a calendar. I think it's in here. Yeah. But I could have my team calendar expressed. It just depends how you want it to be laid out, really. But you're quite right. I've forgotten about those things. So there could be a news service in here because there is a widget for that. All those widgets can be incorporated in here.
Okay, great.
And Bard's asking sort of the controversial question, is this standard functionality or would it be charged separately by unit for? So Bard, that's a question you'd have to take back to your own account manager. We can't answer that.
Okay.
I think with this though, Ben, it's a great piece of kit and great power to, comes to great responsibility. What Martin's demonstrated, and I will sort of applaud him on this, is he's actually sort of produced he's not just produced stuff, he's actually produced workspaces which are, I think, usable. So looking at the requisitioning one, looking at the resources one, this is the kind of thing you would want to see. So, thinking about this, when we're going out there, when we speak to clients, we'd actually present these and sort of saying, right, would this just do for you, rather than going to designs and sort of saying, coming out of it days later and sort of with the possibility of, having something. This is actually a really good start for 10. And looking at what Unit 4 has done, actually, I think this is probably better than some of the Unit 4 ones. Should I say that?
Well, there might be an opportunity for, because a lot of these are in, a lot of the cost would be in design, I'm just talking off completely, if there were 3 or 4, or if there were several customers that wanted to club together to help us design these, and then we came up with 25 dashboards, and then people were happy to cut, and we'll have this one, this one, this one, and this one. Who are we to stop that from happening? Because then we can share the design and have input from multiple different sources, and then we can have a catalogue of workspaces. And different organisations can say, well, we'll have this one, this one, and this one, and this one, and the tweaks will be minimal. But I will also do training sessions. We're developing a training session so people can do it themselves, because it is a little bit, it's not as easy as the other things we've talked about. Because it brings all of those other things together. There is technical speak behind it. So it talks about context, things being in different contexts and all this kind of stuff, which you have to get your head around. But there's nothing stopping people from doing it themselves. But equally, I can see that we could have a catalogue of 20 of these, which would suit the requirements of most of our customers.
We can't export or import these in, can we?
No.
Which is unfortunate. I thought that was the answer. Okay.
Any more questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat group, but please, again, we're all friends here. So if there's anybody that wants to open up a question and rather speak, then please come off mute and talk.
Harpal,
Yeah.
going back to the whole point of importing and exporting workspaces,
Yeah.
when they give you an installation of workspaces, Unit4 provides some really rubbish sort of demo versions, which comes in as scripts. So we could easily sort of generate a base set of SQL scripts, which we can then get the clients to run to import the catalog.
Okay, stand corrected then. There you go. Yeah. So, if there's no any more questions, any more for anyone?
No, Neil's just come back and said the idea of a catalogue would be interesting. Yeah, Neil, I think so. We just need to sort of go away and think about that, because again, what I do like, and again, I will say that, and maybe I'm sort of biased here, but I think what Martin's produced here is something that's workable in terms of the fact that these are because again, my concern with all these kind of things is people go away in dark rooms for days and days and come out with very little. This is a good start for 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, we
Yeah.
probably do need to think about how
if we had some customers who would spare some time to help us design these things, to help us shape this catalog, it's got input from more people. We know it's not just our view of what this should look like. It's not an individual, so it's much more available to all then. And then if we can truly upload this as a catalog, then that's got to be the way forward with this, because I still think this is transformative in terms of the whole user experience and what people are going to get out of Business World. Also, from a training point of view, because those of you who know me, I do, and my days in High Point, we've done quite a lot of training. There is not going to be much training requirement if these are sorted out really neatly and well presented, and we're providing the right sort of information in the right places. People with experience are going to not need much training to drive this system as displayed like this.
So if anybody is considering Workspaces, please reach out to us, because we need some input to finesse probably our offering, and then if anything comes of it, we will support you back on your implementation. So please reach out to us, see how we can help each other.
It's high on our list, Harpal.
Sorry, Wes?
It's high on our list. I'll be coming to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Wes, please just actually, I was going to no, I'll speak to you separately.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put somebody on the spot now. So Claire, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think they look really good. Yeah, I do like them, especially just doing more of a generic one for all staff.
Yeah.
And I think like the comments you were saying, it does give it that much more modern feel to it. It's just being an accountant is having that creative design element. It scares me a bit.
we're all left.
I have no imagination. But no, I do like how they look. Definitely.
That's why I think we're reaching out to folks to say, come on, people, let's design. Let's design. Let's get a collective design together, and then because we're all lacking in imagination. So that's great. Yeah.
The thing I do like about it, and again, is you just throw people onto this. There's no training required. It's you don't need to navigate around the system. It's great, isn't it?
I think it's the fact that it actually uses that navigation for people that don't use the system every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I like the fact you click on one of these buttons and it displays information, like zero effort.
Yep, that's right. It's all in memory, isn't it?
It's just, so if I was a project manager, I could see all my current projects just by clicking on that button, and and various other reports before I even then start to drill down and through the different menus. Then that seems to me to be a game changer, I think.
Yeah.
I think someone raised it earlier, Harpal, I think. Sorry, I interrupted there. I think someone raised it earlier. This is what Unit 4 should have done in the first place. It almost feels like a bit naughty of them to charge for an extra module, which really puts the system back where it should be. This is obviously the modern way of doing things, and old self-service and the screens set up is a bit old-fashioned. So this brings it back level, I think.
Yeah.
we can't possibly comment was in terms of pricing strategy. But no, definitely. I mean, it's again, you know, we said the word modern. Information pages were a start of this, and information pages, whilst trying to do some of this in terms of the graphical input, were not workable because of the fact that, as Ben's displayed there, you know, you clicked on the button, you know, the results were instantaneous. Information pages would go and drag and sort of take forever to get the information back, and you know, therefore was proved to be a failure straight away. And so, you know, the fact that this is in memory, this is just moved on like leaps and bounds.
Yeah, well, we have license for this at the moment, so again, I'd be quite interested in seeing what, well, again, from an installation point of view and everything else as well, what the involvement of that is, and how quickly we get this up and running. Really, we've already got a lot of the material in the background, which what you're saying is the most of the donkey work.
Yeah, it's just sewing it together now, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's just, yes, like you say, it's just sewing it all together. So I'd be very keen to get some of that up and running. From our side of things, definitely.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's it from our point of view. And if you're interested, please reach out to us, and we'll see if we can take this forward.
So I've just put a link in the chat for sort of a questionnaire or survey, so please sort of participate to that. Your feedback is always valued. This webinar itself has been recorded. This will be going on to our website in the coming days, similar to the one from last week. So we apologise, we're a little bit behind. We've been busy on a few things, but yeah. So all these recordings will go on the website. And next week we've got P&Ds. And that brings our sort of 5 weeks to conclusion on these webinars, but we will be looking for ideas to sort of bring something back again, probably end of August, September, Ben?
Yeah. Okay.
So sorry, go on.
Well, it's over to you.
Sorry, I thought someone was in. Yeah, no, that's all from us, unless anybody's got anything else to ask.
Oh, thank you. It's been very helpful.
Perfect. And
Thank you.
we'll probably see you again next week. And as many of you, are welcome again.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.